Have you ever stood in the quiet of your own life and felt a strange, unsettling echo? A feeling that the person staring back at you from the mirror is a carefully crafted performance, a character playing a role in a story you never consciously wrote. Do you sometimes feel like you are meticulously following a sacred contract you never signed? A divine blueprint drawn by hands other than your own, the hands of your parents, your teachers, your friends, and the vast, demanding ocean of society. If this message finds you, if it speaks to the very core of your being, let it be a sign. Let me know in the comments below by affirming, "I am here for this awakening. Your soul has been whispering, and it's time to listen." Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, for this is merely the first step on a profound journey of rediscovery, and you are not walking this path alone. Deep within your soul, there is a powerful, undeniable truth, a vibration that has been crying out, screaming in the silent chambers of your heart, that something is profoundly misaligned. You rise each morning, a ritual of resurrection, only to adorn yourself with the same social armor, the same carefully polished mask you have worn for years. It is a masterpiece of conformity, designed to navigate the world, to fulfill your obligations, to seamlessly interact with others as if the vast, inner ocean of your being were perfectly calm. You play your part with impeccable precision, smiling when you are expected to smile, nodding in agreement when your soul screams in dissent. You are the perfect citizen, the dutiful child, the reliable friend, the competent employee. But what is the cost of this performance? What happens when the applause dies down, when the curtains fall, and you are left alone in the stark, echoing silence of your own company? It is in these moments of profound solitude that the silence itself becomes a roar. It is then that a single, terrifying, and liberating question finally breaks through the surface. Who am I, really, beneath all these layers? The great spiritual cartographer, Carl Jung, understood this feeling not as a mere coincidence or a fleeting existential whim, but as a symptom of a deep, foundational problema, spiritual ailment that most of humanity lacks the courage to even acknowledge, let alone confront. This feeling of disconnection, this gnawing sense of inauthenticity, is a divine summons, a call from your higher self to embark on the most important quest of your life, the journey back to you. Most souls will traverse their entire earthly existence without ever truly knowing the sacred essence of who they are. They will live and die as strangers to themselves, their lives a collection of social roles, manufactured identities, and imposed expectations. They build their homes on the unsteady ground of external validation, seeking their reflection in the eyes of others, never daring to gaze into the deep, infinite mirror of their own soul. They believe that this intricate stage, with its predetermined scripts and assigned roles, is all there is. They believe that the mask is their face. And so, they die without ever having known the symphony of their own spirit, the unique frequency that only they were meant to broadcast into the universe. And now, the most vital question of your existence presents itself. A question that has the power to shatter your illusions and set you free. Is this happening to you? Is the life you are living a true reflection of your soul's purpose, or is it a monument to the expectations of others? What you have come to call yourself, your personality, your desires, your beliefs, your very identity, may not be you at all. How much of the person you present to the world is truly, authentically yours, and how much is a collage of fragments placed there by others, a mosaic of shoulds and musts that have buried your divine essence? Since the first moments of your childhood, you have been undergoing a subtle but powerful conditioning. You have been meticulously trained to fit in, to become acceptable, to earn love and validation by hiding certain aspects of yourself. You learned, perhaps without even realizing it, that some parts of you were welcome while others were to be suppressed, banished into the shadows of your psyche. In order to be loved, to be accepted, to belong, you began the sacred, and often painful, act of creation. You created a mask. Carl Jung, in his profound wisdom, gave this mask a name, the persona. It is a social disguise, a functional tool that we use to protect our tender, vulnerable core from the harsh judgments and expectations of the outside world. It is the face we show at work, the personality we adopt at family gatherings, the carefully curated version of ourselves we present online. The persona in itself is not inherently evil. It is a necessary interface for social living. However, a great danger emerges when we forget that it is just a mask. The more we wear this persona, the more we identify with it, the further we drift from the shores of our true selves. We begin to believe that the armor is our skin. And one day, we look in the mirror and realize with a chilling sense of dread that this mask has become all that is left of us. The true face, the authentic essence, has been forgotten, lost in the labyrinth of our own making. But Jung issued a solemn warning to us all. Living a life disconnected from who we truly are, a life lived solely through the persona, comes at a devastating cost. This cost is not measured in currency, but in the currency of the soul. It is a price paid with pervasive anguish, a deep and unsettling dissatisfaction that no external success can quell, and a constant, nagging feeling that something essential is missing from your life. It is the emptiness that haunts you in your quietest moments, the void that no achievement, no relationship, no amount of praise can ever truly fill. Have you ever felt this? Have you climbed the mountain of success only to find the view from the top is hollow and meaningless? Have you surrounded yourself with people, yet felt an unbearable sting of solitude? This happens because you are seeking fulfillment in the external world, in the realm of illusion and form, while the very thing your soul is yearning for lies dormant within you. What you truly, desperately need is not out there. It is not in a better job, a more perfect relationship, or the fleeting recognition of others. It is within you, buried deep beneath layers upon layers of conditioning, waiting patiently for you to turn your gaze inward. The great and defining question of your life, then, becomes this. Are you willing to undertake the sacred pilgrimage into your own psyche? Do you have the courage to dive into the uncharted waters of your inner world and discover the magnificent, terrifying, and whole being that you really are? Be warned, this journey is not for the faint of heart. It is the hero's journey, and it is not easy. Finding your true self, your authentic divine essence, requires you to confront everything that has been repressed, forgotten, or distorted over the years. It means turning inward and bravely facing the parts of yourself that you might prefer to avoid, the parts you have deemed unworthy, unacceptable, or too dangerous to acknowledge. You must face your darkness to find your light. But understand this profound truth. This is the only way to truly free yourself. This is the only path to genuine liberation. In this sacred space, we will explore the journey that Carl Jung called individuation, the holy process of becoming whole, of integrating all parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, and finally living a life that is in perfect alignment with your true, divine essence. Are you ready for this? Are you prepared to shatter the illusions and reclaim your power? Then let us begin. Since you were a small child, a subtle process of soul sculpting has been underway. You learned, through a million tiny interactions, that to be accepted, you needed to behave in certain, prescribed ways. Perhaps you were a boisterous, joyful child, but you were taught to be polite, to not speak too loudly, to contain your vibrant life force. Perhaps you felt waves of righteous anger, but you were told to be nice, to please others, to never show the raw power of your emotions. Or maybe you learned that you had to be the strong one, the pillar of your family, at all times. You learned to hide your weaknesses, to bury your vulnerabilities, and to project an image of unshakable confidence even when, deep inside, you were trembling with doubts and fears. Unbeknownst to your conscious mind, you began to shape an identity, an external self, that was not solely yours. It was a reflection, a composite image, of what the world expected of you. Carl Jung called this masterfully crafted mask the persona. It is the face you present to the world, the meticulously designed version of yourself that you constructed to fit in, to survive, to be loved. And make no mistake, every single one of us has one. Don't be fooled into thinking you are exempt. We all have a persona. If you have ever acted differently at work than you do at home, or differently with your friends than with your family, or if you have a carefully curated online presence that only shows your best angles, then you have already experienced the power of the persona in your life. Is it a useful tool? Yes, absolutely. Without it, navigating the complex social world would be nearly impossible. It allows us to function, to relate, to participate in the collective. But herein lies the great, and often tragic, danger. When you completely and utterly identify with this mask, you start to forget who you really are beneath it. Think for a moment and be brutally honest with yourself. How many times have you said or done something not from your authentic core, but simply to be accepted? How many times have you hidden what you really thought or felt out of a deep-seated fear of judgment? How many countless times have you caught yourself forcing a smile when, deep inside, you desperately wanted to scream? This happens because at some point on your journey, the persona stopped being just a role you played and began to dominate your entire existence. You are no longer an authentic individual, but a character playing a part in a play you didn't even consciously choose. And here is where the true problem lies. The root of so much human suffering. The persona, this external mask, cannot sustain your soul. It can bring you social acceptance, yes. It can guarantee you compliments and external validation. But it can never, ever bring you true, lasting fulfillment or genuine, soul-deep happiness. In the long run, a life lived solely through the persona leads to an empty life. A life where you constantly feel that something essential is missing, but you can't quite identify what it is. And worse still, the more you cling to this mask, the further you drift from your true essence, your divine core. But what if the persona is not your true self? Then who, or what, are you really? To answer this question, we must have the courage to look at the other side of the coin, to turn our attention to the part of you that has been repressed, rejected, and pushed into the deep, dark corners of the unconscious. Jung called this the shadow, and this is where the true quest for your true self truly begins. But be careful. What is hidden in the shadow is not always easy or pleasant to face. Are you ready to discover what lies beneath the surface? Then, continue this journey with me. If this content is stirring something within you, if it's making sense on a level that goes beyond words, I invite you to click the subscribe button and join our community. Thank you for your courage and your presence. If the persona is the mask you wear to be accepted, then the shadow is everything you hide to avoid being rejected. But here's the problem, a fundamental law of the psyche. What you repress does not disappear. On the contrary, it gains a monstrous strength in your unconscious, operating in the deep, unseen shadows of your mind. It begins to influence your emotions, your fears, and even the choices you make in life, all without you ever consciously realizing it. Carl Jung described the shadow as the hidden side of the psyche, composed of absolutely everything that has been repressed throughout your life. Think of it as a dark, sacred container holding all of your prohibited desires, your contained, simmering anger, the weaknesses you don't want to admit to, and the deep, painful traumas you've tried so desperately to forget. And do you know what's even more profound, and perhaps worse? Many of the things you've banished to your shadow aren't even inherently bad. They are just parts of you, your raw creativity, your tender sensitivity, your righteous passion that at some point in your life, someone, somewhere, told you were unacceptable. Perhaps as a child, you showed too much boundless curiosity, but you were called inconvenient and learned to stay quiet, to shrink yourself. Maybe you felt the powerful, primal urge to express anger, but you were taught that it was wrong, that good people don't get angry. And now, as an adult, you swallow your frustrations, you push them down, deeper and deeper, until one day they explode in a torrent of uncontrollable rage. Perhaps you showed a beautiful, deep sensitivity, but society, in its blindness, convinced you that it was a weakness, so you learned to hide your feelings, to build walls around your heart. All of this, every single part of you that was denied expression, did not simply vanish. They just hid in your shadow, growing in power, waiting for the right moment to emerge. And they always do emerge. If you've ever had a sudden, inexplicable outburst of anger and then regretted it deeply, or felt a pang of intense envy towards someone and tried to deny it even to yourself, or reacted with excessive, disproportionate pain to criticism without understanding why, then you have experienced your shadow taking control. When we don't consciously deal with it, it manifests in distorted, destructive ways, silently sabotaging our relationships, our careers, and our precious self-esteem. But here is the truth that no one ever tells you, the secret that can change everything. Your shadow is not your enemy. On the contrary, it is where many of the most valuable and powerful aspects of your personality lie dormant. It holds your creativity, your authenticity, your true strength. You cannot be whole, you cannot be free, until you have the courage to turn and face this part of yourself, to integrate it. And to do that, you need to stop running away and start looking inward. But how do you face something that has been repressed for so long? How do you bring your shadow into the light of consciousness without letting it consume you? The answer lies in a central, transformative concept of Jungian psychology, the self, or the true self, and that is exactly what we are going to explore now. If the persona is the mask, and the shadow is everything you have repressed, then the self, the true self, is what exists beyond these layers. It is the totality of your psyche, the harmonious and sacred fusion between who you truly are at your core and who you show to the world. Jung believed that the ultimate purpose of life was not simply to follow a path predefined by society, but rather to become whole, to discover your true essence, and to live in alignment with it. This process of profound self-discovery and integration is what he called individuation. But finding the self is not something that happens by chance. It is not a magical epiphany that simply appears one day in front of you. The self does not reveal itself to those who are not willing to face the raw, unvarnished truth about themselves. You need to actively seek it out, and this quest requires a deep, courageous journey within yourself. It is a confrontation with everything you have been taught to hide, a sacred reconciliation between your most authentic desires and the heavy restrictions imposed by the outside world. The greatest obstacle to finding the true self is fear. Fear of losing the identity you have so carefully built over the years. Fear of realizing that many of your life's choices were not truly your own. Fear of facing the aspects of your personality that you have denied for so long. This fear is what causes so many people to never find the self. They spend their entire lives clinging to the persona, pretending to be something they are not, while their shadow operates behind the scenes, sabotaging their chances of genuine, lasting happiness. But what if you ignore all of this? What happens to someone who refuses to look at the unconscious, who resists the call of individuation and continues to live according to masks and illusions? The answer lies in the deep psychological suffering that inevitably accompanies those who flee from themselves. And that is the grave danger of non-individuation, which we will now explore. What happens to someone who spends their life running away from themselves, who ignores their own shadow, lives imprisoned in a persona, and refuses to acknowledge the archetypes that shape their destiny? Carl Jung was unequivocally clear on this matter. Avoiding the process of individuation does not keep us safe. It does not protect us from pain. Instead, it condemns us to a fragmented, inauthentic existence, a life filled with a constant, low-grade anxiety, a pervasive frustration, and an aching emptiness that can never be filled by anything external. Many people believe that following society's rules and fitting into the mold of what is expected of them will guarantee a peaceful, stable life. But this tranquility is merely superficial, a fragile illusion. At some point, something inevitably begins to go wrong. It may manifest as sudden, inexplicable emotional crises, deep feelings of dissatisfaction, even when everything on the surface seems perfect, or the emergence of psychosomatic illnesses. The body and mind always find ways to alert us when we are straying too far from our true nature. Non-individuation can also manifest through destructive, repetitive patterns. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to repeat the same mistakes throughout their lives? How they enter one abusive relationship after another, sabotage their own achievements, or live in a constant state of dissatisfaction? This happens because when we do not deal with what is hidden within us, we become prisoners of our own unconscious. It finds ways to express itself, even if it is through suffering. Another common symptom of non-individuation is the feeling that we are merely existing, but not truly living. This manifests in a monotonous routine, in a life without clear purpose, in a sense that we are just going with the flow, adrift on the ocean of life without a clear direction. This is the tragic reality for millions of people who have never stopped to question whether the life they lead is truly the life they chose. They follow inherited patterns, imposed beliefs, and external expectations without ever stopping to ask the most important question of all: does this really make me happy? And the most dangerous consequence of all is resentment. When a person ignores who they really are, they inevitably feel a deep, simmering anger. But they do not always know where that anger comes from. So they may turn it against others, blaming the world, the system, their family, or society for their own suffering. Or, even more tragically, they may turn it inward, transforming that anger into depression, self-sabotage, and a deep, painful disconnection from their own existence. But there is a way out. There is a way to break this devastating cycle and free oneself from this invisible prison. The answer lies in the courage to face the truth, to question one's own illusions, and to seek the path of individuation. This process is not easy. It requires strength, determination, and the unwavering willingness to look within, even when what we find is not pleasant. And now we come to the crucial point. What does it mean in practice to be yourself? What is it like to live without masks, without repression, without the constant fear of external judgment? What happens when you truly find your true self? Let's explore this in our conclusion. Finding your true self is not a destination, but a sacred, lifelong process. It is not something that happens overnight, as if one day you simply wake up and know exactly who you are. It is a journey that lasts a lifetime, a path of constant discoveries, deconstruction, and reconstruction. It means facing the shadows and freeing yourself from the masks that have been imposed upon us. And it is a path that few, tragically, choose to walk. Most people prefer the fragile safety of conformity. They cling to their personas because they believe that without them, they would be rejected. They avoid looking at their shadows because they fear what they will find there. They ignore the archetypes that guide their lives because they do not want to admit that they are not in control as much as they would like to be. But this fear comes at a terrible cost: an empty existence, a life lacking authenticity, depth, and real, soul, satisfying meaning. Jung showed us that true freedom lies not in fitting in, but in becoming who we really are. This means accepting your wholeness, both your qualities and your flaws, both your light and your darkness. It means taking control of your own life, rather than being just a product of your environment, your culture, and the expectations of others. It means abandoning the role of a puppet and becoming the author of your own story. But this path requires immense courage. Courage to let go of the illusions that have been comfortable for so long. Courage to face your own fears and insecurities. Courage to accept that you may not be who you thought you were, and that's okay, because now you have the opportunity to become someone much greater, much more authentic, much more alive. So, I ask you, are you ready for this challenge? Are you willing to question the stories you've been told about who you are, to confront the parts of yourself that have been repressed, to finally live according to your true divine essence? If something in this video made you reflect, let me know in the comments. What part impacted you the most? Have you ever felt like you were living an identity that wasn't really yours? Let's talk about it. And don't stop here. The next video is essential to deepen this journey and understand even more about the hidden mechanisms that shape your mind. So keep watching, because this discovery is just beginning.